أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشتد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, today we are starting to a new topic, which is a continuation of our previous topic, which was ijtihad. It's a new topic in the sense that it's about the companions of the Prophet, but it's an addendum to the topic of ijtihad, which means we are, at least the author is investigating this topic of the companions in the context of ijtihad, in the context of ijtihad. And when we were talking about ijtihad, it was the author said the door to extract new rulings for the religion is open, but there are 6 obstacles to enter from that door. And overall, just in a nutshell, what I would understand from that is the author was saying that the rulings that were extracted by the previous generations would be more than enough for you if you are trying to expand the religion for the sake of benefiting from it. If this is truly your need or motivation, then what's already out there is more than enough for you. And now he's bringing up the companions, because those ijtihad are done by, like, the madhab imams that we know of are from the 2nd and the 3rd generation. But now the author is bringing up the topic of companions, which is the 1st generation of students of the messenger. So we can see from here what the order is up to. So he is, in a sense, studying or introducing the students of the messenger and how we are related to them, or why they are important for us. So let me start reading with the first part, and inshallah we will keep talking about that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Addendum to the 27th word on the companions of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Like Mawlana Jami, I say, O Messenger of God, if only like the dog of the companions of the cave, I could be in paradise among your companions. Is it right that their dog is in paradise while I am in hell? He was the dog of those companions. I am the dog of yours. Okay. In his name be he glorified, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. Let me very quickly check one thing over here, because I think there might be some issue with that translation. Okay, so yeah, I am the dog of yours means I am the dog of your companions. So he was the dog of those companions of the cave. I am the dog of your companions, which is an interesting poem by Mawlana Jami. But apparently the author agrees with that, so that he put it at the very beginning of, or the opening of this treatise, which is interesting. What does it mean for, apparently there is something going on in here. I couldn't pass beyond this poem, because it sounds very like lowering the self. I mean, maybe I would be okay if he were to say that I am your dog, but now he is saying I am the dog of your companions. But again, the imagery is very weird. Why would I be a dog of another human being, right? What does that mean? So it looks like it's also, we need to maybe think about what does it mean for a dog was being set as a companion for the companions of the cave, like Ashabul Kahf. What does that signify? If you have any idea about that, about the first part, and then the second part, where like they are the dog, he is the dog of those companions, yet he is in the paradise. Why shall I not be in the paradise as I am the dog of your companions? So any comment before I go any further? This sounds interesting to me. If you have any opinion about this poem, I would be happy to hear. Yes, Atik.
Well, I guess that it's making a point about associating yourself with like honored individuals, right? And how, what effect that has on your own standing or something like that. Because if you think about the companions of the cave, right, Allah is telling us a story about these, amazing individuals and their how they overcame or were dealing with, a great tribulation of their whole people, like going against them or something. And he's including the mention of a dog. We don't especially really care about dogs. It wouldn't really make sense, or it's not really important. I don't know. I feel like it's not important to the story, but just because they had a dog and was it was in relation to these companions, he was given a place in the Quran. I mean, that's amazing. and did he truly deserve that position? You don't know, but he was granted it because of his relationship with those young men. And so I guess it's like, if we put ourselves in a position of attachment, right, to the companions, or like distinguished individuals in our religion, maybe we can get some honor in the sight of God from that.
So as I'm thinking about, there are two major points here, right? One is the emphasis of the companions of the cave, and companions of the Prophet is being likened to them. And companions of the cave are those who were escaping, or who were under the rule of an oppressor who was trying to prevent them from believing in the Creator and practicing their conviction. So, and those were people from, most of them were from the wealthy families. So they left away their status within the society for the sake of what they know to be the truth. So they paid a price. It was not like they just said that, oh, this world is too busying us, and I'll just prefer to stay in a cave by myself. No, they paid the price of leaving behind a lot of things. They were persecuted. So they are those who upheld the truth in the expense of their position, their status within the society. And this is their importance, and they are now being compared to the companions of the messenger, which also they paid a huge price within that society, because messenger was coming up with a message which was unprecedented within that society. And he was challenging the whole world, actually, not only that society. And people, by supporting the messenger and the message that he brought, they paid a very heavy price. When we go to the history and look at especially the first believers, the Meccan era, they paid a huge price. It doesn't stop there. When we go to Medina, now the type of the price that they pay is changing, yet now they have wars with people. Like up until the end of Meccan era, no wars. but there is hunger, there is oppression, even people were killed during that era, but they didn't turn back from what they consider to be the truth. And when they go to Medina, now the oppression becomes not only from the Meccan society, but the surrounding tribes trying to annihilate this group of people. So they fought for it, and it was not only for their own faith, but they also fought for bringing this message to other people. So jihad was a major part of their endeavor. So, and jihad is the name of the act to remove the obstacles between human and Iman. And there were obstacles for other people, other, let's say, tribes. They went there to remove that obstacle between them and Iman. So this was a self-sacrifice also. So in this regard, those people are as highly elevated as Quran is talking about companions of the cave. And then about the dog. So when I think about dog is an animal representing loyalty. So Quran is talking about a loyal animal to the companions of the cave. And Mevlana Jami must have seen something important in that mention. Like it shouldn't be something insignificant. If it was, it wouldn't be in the Revelation. So Revelation is mentioning a loyal companion to the companions of the cave, maybe implying that even if you are not as high as the companions of the cave, still there were their companions which were loyal to them and helping them, yet it was a dog. So it's not that, oh, I cannot reach them, so I'm not going to be in their company. This shouldn't be something that's going to set me back. But no, they had a company which was a dog. So I can be of their company. If I'm not at the caliber of them as a human being, I might try to be at least loyal to them like their dog. So likewise, I guess now Mevlana Jami is applying this to his relationship with the messenger, companions of the messenger. He realizes their importance, their crucial position in the upholding of truth, and it reaching me. And he said, and also it looks that he is aware that they are so elevated in upholding the truth, even if I'm not in the same league with them in terms of having this much of determinism, for instance, determined to uphold the truth that much, at least I can appreciate that and realize their status, and still not say that, their company is impossible to achieve. No, at least I can be their dog, be loyal to them, and upheld them in my perspective. I think this might also be a way to upholding the truth, because I see the truth in their hands and how high they uphold the truth. And then I take them as, I uphold the companions of the messenger, realizing their importance. This becomes a practical way of me upholding the truth, is what I understand. So please agree, disagree, so that we can continue. Okay. If no comments. Okay, so I see a thumbs up. Thank you. So let's continue, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. Muhammadur Rasulullah والذين معه أشداء على الكفار رحماء بينهم. So Muhammad is the messenger of God, and those who are with him are strong against the unbelievers, but compassionate amongst each other. This is chapter 48, number 29 from Quran. Okay. It's an interesting description of the companions, or those who are with the messenger, as they are strong against unbelievers, but compassionate amongst each other. Okay. If you have any comments, any questions at any moment, please stop me. You ask, there are some narrations which say, at a time when innovations are rife, some of the righteous among the believers and those who fear God will be on a level with the companions, or of even greater virtue. Are these narrations sound? And if so, what is their true meaning? Okay, so there are such narrations which say, when there are a lot of bid'ah, like a time comes when bid'ah is so commonplace, some righteous people, like salih people among the believers, and like some people of taqwa, those who are God conscious, will be on a level with companions or even of greater virtue. They would be as good as Sahaba in terms of their taqwa, or even better. Are these narrations sound? Can we trust them? If they are, what is their true meaning? So as if the author is saying that the questioner is astonished. Can such a thing really happen? If it does, there must be a true meaning behind that. What is it? I cannot take it literal, as if the questioner is so much astonished with such a narration, saying that it's hard to believe such a narration exists. If it does, first tell us if it is. Then, if there exists, there must be a true meaning behind that. Tell us what it is. The answer. The consensus of the Sunnis, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that after the prophets, the most virtuous of mankind are the companions, is a certain proof that those that are sound out of those narrations refer to minor virtues. So in here, I'm realizing that the author is saying that some of those narrations are sound, some are not, but among the sound narrations, which are in this line of thought, they refer to minor virtues. What does that mean? For in minor virtues and particular perfections, equality may be deemed preferable to that which is superior and in fact preferable. But from the point of view of general virtue, the companions cannot be reached, who are the subject of divine praise at the end of Surah Al-Fatih, which was this verse over here, and are praised and applauded in the Torah, Gospels, and Quran. For now, we shall explain 3 points of wisdom concerning this truth, which comprise 3 reasons out of very many reasons and instances of wisdom. So what I see here is the author makes a distinction, saying that from the point of some specific minor virtues, this can be the case, but in terms of, or from the point of view of general virtue, the companions cannot be reached. Okay. So then now we are being introduced with 2 main things, as I can see from here. One is a minor virtue versus general virtue, like fazila al-juz'iyya versus fazila al-kulliyya. So what is that? This is one question. And the second question is, the author is saying that from the point of view of general virtue, companions cannot be reached. What does that mean? So what does it mean for companions to be unreachable? Is this against the idea of like I am given a choice, like a free will, a choice, and with that choice, freedom of choice, it looks like I cannot reach certain people. So the author says you cannot reach prophets, but not only that, you cannot even reach companions. Why is this the case? So these are, I guess it is now 3 topics it happened. So these are some questions that can be posed here. And Aishanur asks a question. She says, what does virtue mean here? The word makes me think of character virtue, but what does it mean to be virtuous in the context of belief or in the context of being in the company of the Prophet? So these are very nice questions. Okay, so what shall we do? Any comments, please? We asked a lot of questions. What is a virtue? What is a minor virtue versus major virtue? And what does it mean that, what's a minor virtue versus general virtue? And then the third question is, what does it mean that in terms of general virtue, companions cannot be reached? Does anybody want to take one of those questions? If not, we can note them aside and keep going. If anybody wants to note it down in the chat box, it would be nice. So, or let me note. One is a virtue. 2 is, what is minor virtue versus general virtue? The third one is, let me split the third question into 2. Do we agree that human cannot reach the level of prophets? And 4 is, human cannot reach the level of companions in regards to general virtue. These are 4 points, I guess, that we have in this page. And before entering into the answers, we can enter to the answers and revisit those questions back. Just to reiterate, the questioner here was asking that there are narrations which says at the time of innovations, there are going to be some righteous and Ahlul Taqwa, people of God consciousness, among the believers that would be on the same level with companions or even of greater virtue. And in response to that, the author said, this can be true only for the minor virtues. Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah is in consensus that prophets are the most virtuous, and then Sahaba is the next in terms of virtue. So anybody who comes after cannot be at level with them in general virtue. This is the main statement. Okay. So let's move on. Since you are not bringing anything in, I don't want to talk too much on that. I have tons of questions there, but let's move on. We can come back later on after maybe reading a few more paragraphs. So he said there are going to be 3 wisdoms. First instance of wisdom. The conversation of the Prophet was such an elixir that someone who experienced it for 1 minute received lights of reality equivalent to years of spiritual journey. The conversation of the Prophet was such an elixir that someone who experienced it for 1 minute received lights of reality equivalent to years of spiritual journey. For in conversation, there is reflection and a being colored. You get colored by the color of the person you are talking to or you are having conversation with. It is well known that through reflection and following and imitating, and through the sublime light of prophethood, a truly exalted level may be reached. Like through allegiance to his sovereign and following him, a sultan's servant may rise to a position so high, a king cannot rise to it. It is due to this mystery that the greatest saints cannot reach the level of the companions. Even saints like Jalaluddin Suyuti, who conversed many times with God's noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, while awake, even if they do this and are honored in this world with his company, with messenger's company, they still cannot reach the companions. For through the light of Muhammad's wasalam prophethood, the companion's conversation was with him as prophet, while the saints saw him wasalam, after his death and conversed with him through the light of his sainthood. That is to say, the personification and appearance of God's noble messenger is in respect of his sainthood, not in regard to his prophethood. Since that is so, however much higher the level of prophethood is to that of sainthood, one should differentiate between the two conversations to that degree. Just how luminous and elixir was the prophet's company may be understood through the following. A primitive man, so hard-hearted and savage, he buried his daughter alive, would come and be honored with the conversation of the prophet for an hour, and would acquire such kindness and compassion that he would not step on an ant. And an ignorant savage would converse with the prophet for a day, then go to lands like China and India and instruct civilized peoples in the realities and guide them in perfections. So this is a very interesting text. The author is talking about some different things, at least let's put it this way. So any comments, please? Maybe questions? If no comments, questions are also more than welcome. Why companions are not reachable? The author gave the first instance of wisdom. Yes, Sister Aisha, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. I'm still thinking about the first sentence where it's saying that the conversation with the Prophet, peace be upon him, was such an elixir that someone who experienced it for 1 minute received lights of reality equivalent to years of spiritual journeying. I'm wondering, is it the case because of the way that the Prophet embodied a certain God consciousness or embodied the Quranic message such that reflecting into the conversation as well? Like I'm trying to understand what is it about a conversation with the Prophet that makes it equivalent to years of spiritual journeying? Is it again, like, I can certainly think in my own life, the impact of certain conversations where, it might be one conversation, but I'll remember it for many, many years, as opposed to another random conversation with someone else. So is it something about, and I guess this is what you were saying, like being colored with the color of another person, right? With their state of being, kind of, sometimes the state of being of someone being a lot more what's the word? Impactful than anything else. And that state of being communicated through both words, expressions, and other avenues, perhaps. Because I mean, like, you know, when I think about the order of the universe or the order of social growth, like, it's hard to think of someone who is so wretched, right, that they I don't know, does it say it in this paragraph specifically? So wretched that, you know, they bury their daughter, but then after a conversation, they're able to acquire kindness and compassion, as it says in the second paragraph. Like, normally, whatever normally is, character growth or the transformation of one's character takes time. And it seems like time is very differently experienced or translated, either by virtue of the level of impact or the quality of impact. So I guess, like, I'm trying to understand here, maybe to bring it to myself, I should ask the question, okay, what does it mean for me then? I don't know. Those are, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Those are some of the questions that I'm ruminating upon. But perhaps, like, I'm wondering, is it sort of witnessing a certain ubudiyya, a certain state of worship, that is the cause of such influence and transformation in the addressee of one, that makes it incomparable to anything else that is not also a direct experience of that?
These are very important points. Then let's try to go deeper, because initially we were asking the question, what's a virtue? And I think now the author is, with this description, maybe we can find the bits and pieces of what a virtue is or what it means. So he starts by saying that it's about conversation. So let me see the word that he used over there, just a second. Yes, sohbet. Okay, so sohbet is like, it can be understood as conversation and also being in the company, because sahaba is the word. So, but having this conversation is having an element which is different than reading a book. Why? What is the difference? Because Revelation is a book, but I feel like as if this distinction between Sahaba and me is telling us something about how we learn, and the author is highlighting this. So, for instance, as Aisha also said, there are certain things that I take as a lesson by just observing a person in that state, much more than reading volumes of books about it or reading the reports of that person. But observing the person, and also conversation has this connotation of going back and forth. So I say something, I ask something, or that person sees me and makes an adjustment and reflects back to me. So that component is there, like hand tailoring, if you like, the content according to how I would receive it, is one thing, one point. Another one is, we cannot decouple revelation from the messenger. Like, revelation is embodied in the messenger, and the message that, and what is the message that I'm trying to find? The meaning and the purpose behind this existence is embodied in the human being. And by observing how it is, it's not only, when I say observing, it's not only a matter of eyes. So when you, like even just seeing a red apple, it's not only my eyes are just realizing like, okay, GBR, red, green, blue is like 25500. This is a red apple. Okay, understood. It's not happening like this. When I see that red apple, I am seeing it with my excitement. I am sensing its smell. My appetite is arousing, which is going to be much less if just somebody mentions me, oh, I saw a red apple, right? So even in being in the presence of a red apple is not only about my eyesight, but with all my senses, I am being in interaction with that apple. Now, thinking about interacting with a human being and how I get painted with that person's color in the sense of all his senses, all his qualities, is a big difference. I see a hand. Is this a new hand or no?
Not a new hand.
Okay. So in this regard, the author is saying that there was a big difference between, or what made Sahaba different was that they were readily available or readily having a conversation with the messenger. So the way that the messenger is different than any people or is the best of the teachers, this is why they are so elevated. And in this regard, now if I take it back to the topic of virtue, so can I pinpoint what they were good at? Because when I try to, let's say, absorb the message that is sent, I'm really trying to dissect it into pieces. Either I'm trying to become good in like Aqidah or in this or that. There are certain topics. So shall I study this one? Shall I focus on that one? So many different, like over the years, of course, over the centuries, all those topics or the instruction messenger brought was divided into specializations. And when I sit in front of it, I am studying them one by one. But was it like this for Sahaba? So when they were sitting with the messenger in the context of life that is happening, I feel like all these different virtues or all these different aspects of human was being fed harmoniously in parallel. Because when I think about messenger, maybe one of the first things that come to my mind is balance. He is the focal point and the balance point of manifestation of divine names. But I am finding it hard to establish this balance in my life. So I might be going in too much of an extreme when it comes to, let's say, oh, I'm going to obtain knowledge, so I should study knowledge in the sense of, let's say, logically proving the existence of God. Or I might say that, oh, no, my heart became so hardened. No, now I should go with spiritually realizing or sensing or trying to become more conscious of my creator. So I feel like I'm going back and forth from one extreme to the other. I need to move forward in all of them in parallel within balance. But practically speaking, in my life, I don't see that I'm achieving this. But Prophet was the person who achieved this in his life, and he was demonstrating it with his life. So people were seeing it in action. This balance was being seen in his life in action. So this is what I think can be understood as general virtue. Like for a specific virtue, you might, let's say, get deeper in proving the existence of God by starting from the creation. Okay? So this is a specific virtue. And you might be very strong about your conviction. And if just like the science and all different billions of types of scientific books are put in front of you, they are not even just moving your conviction a bit. You're so certain about it. Nice. This is a virtue. But how certain I am when it comes to like without trying to intellectually think about it, but I saw a sunrise and I started sensing that conviction as like immediately arriving to there. I'm not taking it like a mathematical formula, but I am starting to taste or experience that conviction as well in my day-to-day life. Or when something unexpected happens, how much do I sense this? So a death occurs in family. And when this bad news hits me at the first moment, what is my response, for instance? Is my conviction readily available at that moment as well? Or since I developed this conviction in a sterile environment, which is when I am in front of my books, let's say, I need to think a little bit to calm down and realize, oh yes, I come from him and I turn back to him. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Is this how it is happening? So I think this balance is, or what I am now understanding as the general virtue, if I am correct. Because I am taking this in the sense of, in the first instance of wisdom, the author is talking about how Prophet is reflected onto the people around him. And since he is the best example of the balance of all divine names, I don't know if this makes sense, what I mean by being at the balance point of divine names. Briefly, I can explain what I'm trying to mean by that. So to give a example, let's say when I eat food, I am being a mirror or a manifestation of the sustainer, the name sustainer, right? But if I keep eating and eating and eating, so much so that I cannot even stand up now, I filled my stomach so much, I am still being the mirror to the divine name sustainer, because he is sustaining me. The food I eat is coming from my creator, but I violated the balance of the name Al-Adl, like the just one. The just one was saying that, as Prophet puts in his, like in the narrations we hear from the tongue of the messenger as well, fill 1/3 of your stomach with food, 1/3 of it with water, and the remaining third with air. So this is the balance point for sustainer. I even violated the manifestation of sustainer by going to the extreme. So now apply this to all divine names. There's this appetite in me, or the nafs in me, which wants to violate boundaries, because I enjoy the moment, or eating baklava is so nice, so I keep eating it up until either the tray finishes or I cannot eat anymore, or I enter into sugar coma. So this keeping the balance is the prophetic example. You can increase the examples. Actually, every when we talk about do's and don'ts, like harams, for instance, the haram actions, when you perform those haram actions, let's say you eat pork, still the sustainer is providing you. It's not somebody else. It's not that Zeus created the pork. No, the creator is creating the pork. Creator is making you digest the pork. Creator is making you your cells to benefit from eating that food. So, but the ownership, he is also al-Malik, Malik al-Mulk. He is the owner of the sovereignty. He says, this is mine. I created this pork for you not to eat. Actually, I created it for you not to eat. I didn't create it for you to eat. It is created for not to be eaten. And by not eating, actually, you are going to realize that I am al-Malik al-Mulk, the purpose of creation of pork is not to make you realize sustainer. It is for you to realize Malikul Mulk. So this is what I learned from the prophets, the balance between divine names. So this is why people were experiencing this, since this is clearly visible in his life. The balance is visible in his life. And this makes the companions unreachable, because their teacher was the best of the people of balance, I would say. So let me pause here and hear for your comments, questions. Okay, so no comments. Okay, so this is, so with that explanation, if you agree with it, I think I might have some answers for myself in regards to what is a virtue, a minor virtue versus a general virtue, and what does it mean that who is prophet? And I took it as the person who is demonstrating divine names at the balance point, to the extent that the Creator wants me to keep them within that balance. And then Sahaba was observing the messenger by being in his presence face to face. So they were able to observe and, if you like, assimilate this balance in real time. This is why they were the best, because they were, if you like, progressing and improving to perfection in all those divine names in balance. Unlike me, where I can go to, let's say, higher levels on a certain name, but in regards to general virtue or overall being an overall mirror to all divine names, I'm not being in balance. I'm not keeping the balance. So, Alhamdulillah, for me, this is my lesson from here. And then there were a few more points in here that the author brought up the topic of, so if it's about conversation, he said, as if there's an implicit question. So are there no people after the death of the messenger who had conversation with him? So he is bringing up Jalaluddin Suyuti, who is a saint and who is reported to have had conversation with the messenger in a state, if you like, in between sleep and being awake. Like, he is not in his bed, so he is not sleeping, but he is having a sleep-like state. So, but during that time, like, I'm not talking about specifically how it happened to Jalaluddin Suyuti, but I have heard such accounts in which they say, oh, now the messenger entered to the room and I talked to him with such and such sort of a conversation, and then he left. So apparently this is something that sort of a conversation Jalaluddin Suyuti have several times with the messenger, and the author is quoting this. So in this regard, I'm understanding that the author himself is confirming that such things could have happened and actually happened. So if I am to take it as such, let me put a condition over there. If I am to take it as such and read it like that, the author is saying that even although Jalaluddin Suyuti had a conversation with the messenger, he says it's not the same conversation that the Sahaba had with the messenger. But why? And what does that mean? So let me pause for a second, and I'll appreciate if somebody can take over for a few minutes.
So I'll just recap a little bit of what I understood, which is that conversing with the Prophet has a experiential dimension to it that conveys such an understanding that can't be grasped or understood in any other way. Just as, you know, I can, as Brother Yusuf was giving the example, I can read about an apple, I can study all of its properties, but if I haven't ever taken that apple and, you know, taken a bite of it, I'll never know what exactly it means to taste like a juicy, tasty, sweet apple. And I guess just in terms of as much as analogies goes, being taught by the Prophet directly is, I guess, the equivalent of having that very real experience of something. Of course, prophetic teachings can be conveyed to me and are transmitted to me. But I guess there's always going to be that indirectness of it that I can't quite evade. And, you know, this is, I guess, something that we've talked about in other discussions as well, which is that in one sense or another, though, like the worshipful state, the manifestation of all the divine qualities in a sort of harmonious way that the Prophet exhibits should still be accessible to me through perhaps like the lineage, the tree of prophethood, the lineage, right? Because I have the need for that in my life. I have the need to see such an example in my life. And so it seems like there's a specific directness of it that really is preserved for the companions, hence elevating them in a certain status that I can't reach. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the same teachings in their essence can't reach me either, albeit perhaps in a less direct way. I'll just put it at that. And I guess Brother Yusuf was going to come to this part. It was also interesting, like this distinction that Nursi's making here between sainthood and prophethood. And I feel like we might have discussed this. I think we did at a different section of this text about the differences of prophethood and sainthood, and perhaps it would be useful to talk a little bit more about, well, what does it mean? Well, like, what is prophethood? What does it mean to distinguish between sainthood and prophethood? And I guess my immediate reaction is that prophethood has a sort of embodiment of revelation to it, right? Because the prophet is meant to be a living guide for me, whereas sainthood might not necessarily have that. But I am also a little confused about how personification and appearance enters into the category of sainthood versus prophethood. So perhaps just talking about that distinction and then how it relates to me would be helpful as well. And, you know, this isn't just for Brother Yusuf, but anyone else who has an idea as well.
Jazakallah khair. So I will just say a few words, not sure if they will make too much of a sense or not, but let's try to think together, inshallah, take it as a dua, collective dua. So in our past discussions about sainthood versus prophethood, and we will talk more about it when we get to 31st word, prophethood versus sainthood. So sainthood is described as me trying to get close to the Creator, generally speaking, because like the Creator is absolute, so distant from me, and I am trying to relate to that Creator, and I am trying to get closer to that Creator. So one way to do that might be I'm trying to see his manifestations around, like in the skies, in everywhere, and say that, oh, now I learned that he is merciful, or now I learned that he is this, or now I learned that he is that, and actually I know a little, or he knows more. So this then if I learn more and more, I realize, oh, how large he is knowing. I only initially used to know how to read, and I thought that he is all reading, let's say. And then now that I know mathematics, I also know that, oh, he is all computer, like very awkward naming. But this is one way to trying to get closer to the Creator. Another way of trying to get closer to the Creator, a prophetic way, but it's again trying to get closer to the Creator, is realizing how close my Creator to me, by just realizing that everything that's manifest on me, including me being able to read, is his manifestation of being the reader or being the knower. So all these are recognizing my Creator is getting closer to my Creator. But when it comes to Rasul, it is it's a different thing. Like being a saint, a wali, is on my end. I am recognizing how close my Creator is, or how my Creator is. But when it comes to being a Rasul, then now my Creator speaks to me. So Prophet ﷺ has both. And he was the best among mankind who is, in terms of being a wali, like getting to know the Creator, he was best among us because he was the one who was able to achieve the level of being an abd the best. What does being an abd mean? Recognizing his total impotence, total dependence on the Creator, and total neediness, and not attributing anything to him. By achieving this, realizing everything that's being manifest on him is from his Creator. So getting to know his Creator through everything that is being manifest on him, not only intellectually, but by admitting and accepting and being content with this understanding. And in response to this level, attaining this level of a consciousness, the Creator responds back to him with his speech and appointing him to deliver this speech and embodying it to the other people. This is what I understand from being a Rasul. Now he becomes a messenger. It's not only that he gets to know his Creator with what is being manifest on him, but the Creator takes a further step and talks to him, delivers him a message, and says, don't keep that message for yourself, deliver it to other people as well. So this is my understanding of walaya versus risala. And then here the author says the Prophet ﷺ has these two aspects, and when he was talking to Sahaba in their physical presence, if I'm not reading it too literal, he was talking to them as a Rasul. But when Prophet talks to a wali by appearing to him, I mean, this part is, since it's being outside of my experience, I'm being a little reluctant, but let me finish the sentence. But when the messenger appears to a wali, then he is appearing to them as a wali as well, not as a Rasul, like with his personality as a wali, meaning as a person who recognizes the nearness of the Creator to him, not as a person to whom the Creator talks to him. So this distinction, the author says, makes a big difference, and the reflection would make a difference accordingly. But let me try to understand what that means, trying to bring it to my own experience, not to Jalaluddin Suyuti's, but to my experience. So, for instance, when I read a hadith narration, or when I hear something about Sirah, how Prophet lived a life, So how does this image appear in my mind? So from this text, can I understand? I mean, I'm posing it as a question because I'm not clear about it either. Can I understand it as if the author is saying that actually it can be taken in two ways, and we either generally or exclusively take it as if when I read it, since I'm not really sensing the idea of being like absolute abness and what it would mean that this message comes from the position of being a Rasul, you might be taking the message as it is coming from walaya. Can this be what the author is saying? Like you are likening the messenger to yourself to a certain extent, because everybody has a walaya. Everybody has this sense of getting to know the Creator through what is being manifest on me. So thinking of the messenger like yourself, and when you read something from the messenger, his world is also reflecting on you, let's say, but this reflection is being the way you are, if you like, understanding the messenger. And since the concept or the idea of Risale, let me put it, this word over there, is like a mystery, which is beyond your perception, what it is like. Once it was embodied for those people, they were experiencing it. But since I can barely imagine what does it practically mean to zero your claims of ownership and being a perfect abd, and in response to that, the Creator talks to him. So this is something beyond my perception. I can intellectually say that such a thing must exist, but other than saying that it must exist, I don't know how I can imagine this to be, or to the extent that I am cognizant of this, as if the author is saying that you are staying on the side of walaya. You are perceiving it by likening it to your experience of the Creator. And this is way different than what Sahaba was observing. So when they talk to the messenger, if what I'm saying is making any sense, when they were talking to the messenger, they were talking to a person who was 100% aware of his abness and who was receiving message from the Creator, and they were the witnesses of that. They were like in the environment. When they were in the environment, Prophet was receiving revelation right in front of their eyes. So they were very fresh and very just aware of this fact. But in your case, things are going to be much different. So let me pause here. And Sister Aisha, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. So I have a question about the purpose of this text, because it just feels a little bit like it's drawing out a certain hierarchy. But the question that I'm left with is, okay, how does knowing this hierarchy serve me? Like, is this about like putting me in my place? Is this about telling me what is attainable to me, what is not? Like, I'm trying to understand what does this text provide for me in terms of at least my relationship with the Prophet and the prophetic message.
Jazakallah khair, very nice question. And let's take this question in the light of where it is located. So this is right after the author started talking about ijtihad. And at the beginning of the ijtihad, he said, this treatise is written to the person who is passing their mark. And the main theme of ijtihad was somebody saying that, yeah, I can make ijtihad or come up with new rulings within the religion. by extracting further meanings from the revelation or interpreting them in a different way in this day and age. And the author was saying that, no, you cannot. And in that regard, he was talking about Tabi'in, like the second, third generation. And now he's talking about Sahaba, and he says that you can reach Sahaba. Actually, then let me take you to the end of this addendum. Maybe it might, it's at the end, but. Okay. Okay, so fourth question. Where does the claim of the companion superiority spring from? So this is translated incorrectly in the original. It's asking, where does the claim of superiority over companions spring from, and who put it forward? So as if somebody is saying that, well, actually we are better than companions. And the author is saying that, no, you cannot be. But why is he saying that? This is important. He is going to give an answer to this at the very end, but since you are now asking it, let's bring it to front. Maybe it will put the conversation into a better context. And who put it forward? Why should this matter be made the subject of discussion at this time? Also, why is there this claim of equality with the great interpreters of the law? The answer, there are two groups who say these things. Some are the sincere religious scholars and men of religion who, seeing certain hadith, open up such discussions in order to encourage and hearten the pious and the upright at this time. We do not have anything to say to them. They are anyway few and are quickly made aware. And there's something wrong, but they have good intentions. So the author says, I'm not saying anything to them. The other group, however, consists of the most fearsome, conceited people who want to spread their denial of the schools of law by claiming equality with the great interpreters of the law, like the four madhab imams, and to further their irreligion by claiming equality with the companions. Because, firstly, those people of misguidance have become depraved and have become addicted to depravity and cannot carry out the obligations of the Sharia, since they form an obstacle to their depravity. In order to find a pretext for themselves, they say these questions or these topics may be interpreted. The schools of law are opposed to each other in these matters. And the interpreters of the law were human beings like us and may have made mistakes, in which case, like them, we shall interpret the divine law and perform our worship as we wish. Why should we be compelled to follow them? Thus, due to these satanic wiles, these wretches put themselves outside the fold of the schools of law. It is demonstrated clearly in the 27th word just how baseless and rotten these claims are, so we refer you to that. This was about 27th word, to give it a context. Now about this addendum. Secondly, that group of people of misguidance saw that the matter does not end with the interpreters of the law. For what lay on their shoulders were only the theoretical matters of religion, only the parts which are like debatable or unclear. Whereas this group wants to give up and change the essential teachings of religion. If they say we are better than them, the matter does not finish there. Like claiming superiority over madhab imams is not solving their problem. For interpreters of the law may interfere in theoretical matters and in secondary matters which are not categorical, but these people of misguidance who follow no school of law want to mix their ideas in the essentials of religion as well, and to change matters which are not capable of being changed. and to oppose the incontrovertible pillars of Islam. And so they are bound to attack the companions, who are the bearers and supports of the essentials of religion. So I think this is really the crux of the context, why the author is talking about this hierarchy, right? Those people are bound to attack the companions, who are the bearers and supports of the essentials of religion. Alas, it has been proven decisively in the 27th verse that not animals in human form like them, but true human beings, and the greatest of the saints even, who are the most perfect of true human beings, cannot win the case, claiming equality with the least of the companions. And the author finishes with this salawat, which is also interesting, which includes a narration from the messenger. O God, grant blessings and peace to your messenger, who said, do not insult my companions. By the one in whose hand is myself, if one of you were to spend gold equivalent to Mount Uhud, he could not attain to the equivalent of 2 handfuls that one of them spent, or even half that. So this is the context. Sister Aisha, would you like to make a comment about that?
Jazakallah khair. That's very helpful. I think just reminding myself and recalling back to the topic of the 27th word kind of makes the aims of the author a lot more clear for me. Jazakallah khair.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. Okay, so after this conversation, the author gives us 2 examples, saying that what I'm claiming in here is not simply some theory, but how luminous of an elixir was the Prophet's company may be understood through the following. I mean, this is a nice thing to say that he was a human example, and in our conversations before, we said that we are in need of this the revelation or the guidance in human form so that we can relate to. And he says that actually people related to that. It was not some theoretical thing. People were so much, if you like, transformed by that. A primitive man, so hard-hearted and savage, he buried his daughter alive, would come and be honored with the conversation of the Prophet for an hour, and would acquire such kindness and compassion that he would not step on an ant. Killing your own daughter, having so much of a hard heart, from that to becoming so sensitive to life, so much so that you do not want to kill an ant. Like reaching such a kindness and compassion. So he was really softening or filling the heart with a mercy, which means that person is now reflecting or painted with the color of the mercy. And an ignorant savage would converse with the Prophet for a day, then go to lands like China and India and instruct civilized peoples in the realities and guide them in perfections. This is also interesting because like Arabs do not have a history of civilization or knowledge. Like for instance, when we say Persians have a history. When we say Greeks has a history of knowledge, but Arabs do not. So they appear, like Prophet appears in the middle of a desert. He himself is not a learned person. And he delivers this message to some person from the same community. It's not like those people have it in their blood or in their ancestry. No. The students that he raises in his masjid, somebody comes, gets the message, goes back to those civilized nations, those civilized people of China, India, or Persia, and by delivering the message, they convert those people. So, which is showing how transformative the message was, but not only that, how transformative the conversation was, having within the conversation of the messenger was. Because those people have changed, and also they took the risk of like risking their lives, if you like, to go to those far lands and changing those far lands. And also, this tells one more thing, actually, especially the last example. As the Prophet changed those people changed civilized people. As Prophet's presence painted those people with the personality of the messenger, those people also painted, or if you like, brewed the communities that they become part of, which puts a lot of responsibility and opportunity on my shoulders. Two things. Yusuf, are you surrounded by those exemplary people? They're not going to be among the majority, but minority, a few people from which you can get colored with their paint. Second, once you get colored, do you spread it to other people? I think this last example is a very beautiful example of that and makes me question this. Because a few days ago, I was listening to some person and he was saying that we should become families, or we should aim to form families, which will become like the, yogurt, like you put 1 spoon of yogurt into 1 gallon of milk, and like 6-7 hours later, the entire thing becomes yogurt. So it brews the rest, like this 1 spoon brews the rest. So that person I listened to was saying that we should aim to become families which are like this single spoon of yogurt who is going to brew the rest of the society. So do I see such examples to be painted with their color? This is one, and I should be looking for. And the second one is, actually, we do see that, right? Once I see examples who are experiencing things, they are truly affecting my life much more than listening or reading or hearing. Sister Aisha, or sorry, it took too long for me. Please go ahead.
No. Someone answered it. I mean, I know, again, this is a question we've discussed in depth before, but, listening to you and looking at this text and reflecting over just this emphasis on the transformative, the degree of transformativeness, let's say, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had on those around him. My question then, was, well, how do I in turn become transformed by the Prophet? How do I access that? And I guess, you partially answered it. I guess I have to look for it in those that embody the prophetic message and character around me. But one can't help but think that, like, is it just not accessible to me as it was for the companions then? Like, am I not as, is that potentiality just not going to be there for me?
I mean, this is a good question, but so why am I asking that question? Or let me put it this way, in what tone am I asking that question? Is it that, am I challenging the Creator saying that, oh, this is a competition, I wanted to be as good as Sahaba, and you didn't give me that opportunity, how dare you? I mean, I'm not saying that this is your tone, but sometimes my nafs asks this question in that tone, as if taking this as a competition, as I'm trying to become perfect, like self-perfection, and I should have been given those potentialities, and how dare there's a limit on my qualities, or at least this is what this conversation is appearing to take us to. And I feel like asking the question in that tone is the number one reason that I cannot reach there, first and foremost, right? Because being able to ask such a question, or being in a position to ask the question in this tone, is a good enough reason to say that you are far, far away from reaching that anyways. Because as if I am realizing this perfection to be a competition and something that I would achieve, by increasing something in me, not by releasing something, some false claim. This is one way to put it. If I ask the question the other way around, then actually maybe I wouldn't even ask the question, because then I would just be content with whatever is given to me by my creator, and I would be happy with that. So I'm not really raising my head up to reach an elevated degree by putting some more, if like, badges on my shoulders, but by rather becoming more of an abd, by releasing away my false claims of ownership. And in this regard, as Mawlana Jami said, I would be happy to be looking up on the people in front of me as my teachers, and seeing myself lower than them in this regard is more worthy of a way to get closer to my creator, or trying to become in their company, rather than trying to be in a competitive tone or nature. And again, not to be understood wrong, I'm not saying that this is the tone you asked, but when I'm asking such questions, or when I find my nafs to be asking such questions, I am sensing this sort of a competitive tone in myself. And then I tell to my nafs, saying that, what do you think? How does this work? So in this regard, I guess, I can also add one more question to what you said. Forget about today. The second generation that came right after the messenger could have asked the same question. Oh, we didn't see the messenger. But the creator, by putting those people around the messenger, is actually establishing this chain for us, this exemplary for us. And the Sahaba was very much aware of that. Like right after Rasulullah passed away, Sahabi realized the importance of their position. This is why they were super careful about when reporting something from the messenger. Some of them said, oh, such and such memory is better, go and take it from him. So they were aware of the importance of their duty. But likewise, I should be aware of their importance, the importance of the chain. Look for the people who are appointed by my creator. Like, as much as messenger was appointed, Sahaba was also appointed. And there will be people who must be appointed, who are around me, like Sahaba was appointed. And now it's on my shoulders to go and find them and embody what is being reflected on them, and then reflect it to the next generation. So Sister Aisha says, I guess part of the question is, I have this need for my life to be transformed, for myself to be transformed through a living guide. Will that be possible for me? But I guess, then she says, it also comes back to the one who has given the need will sustain me and nourish my needs. Jazakallah khair, very well put. And by making Sahaba, appointing Sahaba around the messenger, they were not only students, they were also teachers. This is an important point to observe. The creator didn't set Sahaba only as students. He also set Sahaba as teachers for the next generation, and they did that duty. So this must tell me something, that the creator is actually fulfilling this. And if I look at my needs, I could say the need is here So I'm expecting the Creator to fulfill this need by human examples. Then I will find out that, yeah, actually he provided this throughout the history. And let me go and find out whomever I can find that can reflect this for me. Any concluding remarks? Jazakallah khair. So inshallah, let me close. And if you don't leave, I'm going to ask you a question after closing the recording. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا